Well, welcome to another video. It's been about a week since I've uploaded one. Not that I'm watching the clock particularly, but one of my more recent instructions from on high was to use this time to be still and to rest. And I've found that in accordance with that, I've had a very difficult time of trying to produce anything as a video maker, if you want to call it that. I've tried several times, but it just hasn't been there for me to do it. There's been no energy around it, and I was talking to Tina, and she felt the same way. She's like, "Oh, I feel like I've got nothing to offer." And you go through these periods where you're completely enthusiastic about things, and then the only way, and my teacher used to talk about it this way as well, but the only way I can relate to it is that periods of rest and periods of quiet, call them meditative or call them restorative or whatever you want to call them, are necessary to allow yourself to catch up to where you actually are in your own transformative process. It's one thing to be able to speak quite lucidly about concepts and principles and the application and all of that sort of thing as a teacher, but you teach in order to learn, and you learn as you teach. Now, that teaching can look like a formal kind of teaching like this, like a video, or even just through your actions. I mean, you're teaching and learning all the time based on what it is that you're aligning yourself with, either love or fear. And one of the things that happens is that you'll enter into different frameworks of relationship within the world, and each one of those will have an equilibrium point where the purpose of the relationship is to bring about the equilibrium where teaching and learning are no longer required. Now, that takes on board the idea of personal healing, which is physical atonement, personal atonement, metaphysical atonement or forgiveness, same thing, as well as that interpersonal, as well as the intrapersonal dimensions of the relationship. And to give a bit of a crude example, examples are never really great because they're always ego oriented, but in the past, etc. But to give a crude example, and please forgive me if this doesn't go well, you'll find that you never perceive your own best interests in any given situation, in any relationship that shows up. And one of the things that happens as a spiritual teacher, let's say, or someone who has taken on board the ministry that the Course in Miracles offers, as a specific example where Jesus says you cannot call yourself a minister until you've completed the workbook, right? There's no certification, there's no documents, there's no nothing. It's just a matter of your own integrity. I've never really called myself a minister. I mean, I refer to myself that way, but I don't see myself that way. And I think I only refer to myself that way as a matter of for other people being able to relate to me in some kind of manner where they can sort of understand or begin to make a bridge mentally. But the relationships that you enter into under the auspices of being a minister, or under the auspices even of teaching and learning, if you haven't completed the workbook, you never know what they're going to bring. Right? These relationships, you don't know how they're going to show up, you don't know what they're going to bring, and there are cursory relationships and there are committed relationships, and of an intimate nature or of a very superficial nature as far as the level of involvement goes. And if you're reading the Course, Jesus does talk about what are the levels of relationships, and it's a very good section to read. The ego, of course, loves to assume everything's always backwards. The ego, of course, loves to assume that relationships are based around, in a healing context, based around love and supporting each other and being inclusive and all of this stuff. Where in actual fact, well, yes, that is the point of reaching the equilibrium, which represents all of those things. But the actual nature of the relationship is about exposing one's own blocks to the awareness of love's presence as those nice things that we all want, within the framework of the relationship itself, prior to reaching an equilibrium. And you'll know when you reach an equilibrium within a relationship, because especially if it's a committed relationship, there'll just be this kind of inner knowing that you've gone as far as you can go. All right. Now, that's not always a specific and good rule of thumb to go by, because if you were stranded on a deserted island with one other person, that other person could potentially play out the entirety of all of the bits and pieces you needed to look at in order to undergo your whole transformation. Okay, so I always find that when you're in a relationship, if it seems like you are just sort of sitting there staring at each other and you've got nothing to say to each other, and in normal human terms that would kind of be the indicator that the relationship's done, right? Or that, you know, I mean, who wants to persist in a relationship that has no more interactive potential? But it's also an indicator that maybe I'm in a comfort zone, maybe I'm in a rut, maybe I'm in a groove and I can't see it, right? And before, I mean, generally at that sort of point, relationships do end, they do fall apart, or something happens. One of the other people in the relationship, one of the people in the relationship will get tempted with something else and whatever. There's a million scenarios that could go on there. But you would want to make sure first that you're not in a comfort zone, that you're not in a rut, that something is not preventing you from that even flow of back and forth, not in a reciprocal way, but in a communicative way, where the realization of the full potential of the relationship to reach enlightenment or to attain an awareness of the awakened state is in front of you, right? So, and often, many times, I've had this, even on my own, it's like I find myself sitting sometimes by myself and I'm like, well, what am I meant to do now? And rather than just making the basic assumption that, you know, well, I've experienced direct union with God, I'm therefore enlightened, and all of this sort of nonsense which goes along with the ego version of things, which you can't get out of, and in a certain sense is true enough for the use of healing. It's not true in reality, but you don't want to stop there. The bottom line, of course, is that I find myself still with the use of a vessel, a physical appearance, and let me be about my Father's business. If I find that that is not something that seems to be coming forth automatically, there may be a block. And I would want to look at that, and I would want to have that block removed so that whatever the energetics are can flow through me. Now, that block may look like simply impatience. As in my case, when I was told, use this time to be still and to take your rest. And I've tried to do anything but that. You know, well, actually, I haven't been too bad lately, but having come from a, what would you call it, a cycle of being very busy producing videos for a big influx of people that have suddenly found my channel, I guess taking my rest is something like you put the brakes on gently and slow down from it. It's a sudden stop otherwise, and I've never been very good at, and I don't want to put myself in a box here, but I've never been particularly very good anyway at doing what I'm told. I'm one of God's unruly ones. My teacher Greta used to call me a diamond in the rough. And I think we're all a bit that way. We all have this purity of heart, which is our true Christ presence, but we're still tempted by the little shiny things that seem to show up sometimes, you know, to take advantage of them. And I don't think there's many of us that would admit that that isn't so, or that would try to declare that isn't so, or very simply, we wouldn't still find ourselves here in this learning frame. I have had people try to tell me that they have no ego, however, and I have no reply for that. I mean, you know, there's a whole world out there of people that have had experiences, profound, some of them profound and divine in all aspects, and have not had the benefit of the universal thought system presented through A Course in Miracles with which to ground that experience and make them useful to the greater availability of those that are looking for a better way. And they tend to become simply, and it's very sad, but they tend to become simply higher functioning versions of NPCs, sprouting the truth but not being able to help anybody else, you know. And I guess you could say in an altruistic sense, well, that is the help that they are offering, and that would be true. But I always look at things from Jesus's perspective in the Course, where it's like, I am calling for teachers who can help me to represent this thought system on earth and represent this universal curriculum in its entirety, not just bits of it, not just grasps at it or indications towards it, but to actually be able to sit down even in this kind of manner and make a video and speak from the heart and just say, hey, look, I know what you're going through as an appearing human on the screen of illusions in the Maya and all of that sort of stuff, and here's another way to look at it if you're interested, and I will be with you for the long run. I had somebody actually the other day write to me and say that they just found my channel and they're binge watching all of my videos, and they watched 30 videos in a week or something, or in 2 weeks watched 30 videos. I thought, that's amazing, you know. It's like if everyone had that much passion or the awareness of the necessity for employing that much passion in their awakening, I mean, this thing would be like super fast. I mean, we're in the celestial speed up now, where if you look at the nature of even the representation of time and space, you know, the old human world, not the forgiven world, the old human world, it's getting crazier and crazier. I don't think there's anyone that won't admit to that. But you have to look at it in the perspective of crazier and crazier compared to what? The whole thing is the physical representation of a tiny mad idea, so why wouldn't I expect it to look somewhat crazy or entirely crazy, even in the attempt to balance that out, which, I mean, there's nothing more unstable than the notion of balance, which is a beautiful quote by Master Teacher Charles Anderson. Even with the attempt to try and balance out the crazy by bringing some sort of order into it. Now, you can't bring order into craziness. All you end up bringing into it is a appearance of a more manageable version of what is crazy. But it's like trying to, I don't know if anyone's seen that kinetic sculpture, the robot that continually bleeds its own fluids, its own hydraulic fluids, and tries to scrape them back in with these scraping hand so that it can stay alive. That's basically what time and space is. It's an attempt to try and perpetuate itself, which is inevitably flawed, because it represents in its entirety the idea of what being flawed is, as an idea of all things here come to die, including the idea of what here is itself. So we're in an experience, or I seem to find myself in an experience of a limited domain, a limited experience in consciousness, where there seems to be a prevalence of lack and need and want and desire and all of these things, which completely goes against the grain of our natural propensity as co-creative authors of reality, wherein there is no lack, there is no want, there is no need, none of that sort of stuff. Everything is completely whole and perfect all the time, which is why everybody's always looking for peace. Everybody always wants that fulfillment. But, you know, I feel empty, I feel lost, I feel like I don't fit in. But initially you look for fulfillment outside of yourself. That person will fulfill me, or if I just have that much money, I'll feel better about myself, all these sorts of things. And of course it never works. There's never enough money, and there's never enough mojo in relationship to the cause and effect relationship you're going to have with any other person to fulfill you, not properly, because you're seeing that person in the attempt of fulfilling yourself as not whole. And I don't know if you can hear that. You have to see them as not whole themselves in order to assume and project onto them that they may be capable of fulfilling your not wholeness as well, right? If you have a whole person, they don't need you. If you have a whole person in the world, maybe like me, I don't need a partner. I'm in a singular relationship with all things all the time, simply operating within time and space as a mouthpiece for the universal curriculum, as I was instructed and asked to do by the head of the atonement and the author of the universal curriculum, Jesus Christ himself. That's a bit of a mouthful. It's a funny thing. So relationships are learning tools, and you have to begin to allow yourself to see them that way, right? You're in a journey of the soul. The world is a giant classroom. You could call it a universal classroom if you like. The classroom itself has different levels of participation. Like a school, you have a primary school, and we're very much in the primary school, and a high school, which are non-terrestrial or interdimensional levels, you know, in the idea of my father's house has many mansions, or my father's kingdom has many houses, whatever you want to, I can't remember the exact wording biblically, but you know, having had connection with non-terrestrial blue beings who I think are Arcturian, it's what people refer to them as Arcturian, I can tell you that the nature of physical transformation and the atonement does not just play itself out through the base level of this time-space third dimensional planet Earth and other planets like planet Earth and other dimensions like this dimension, but throughout a great array of dimensions and realities all at once. I won't get into that right now. All at once, seeming to be expressed through linear alpha to omega presentation, because that's the only way that you can witness to the nature of the change in your mind, is to see it in a linear sense. Ultimately, you will learn to think and to remember the nature of being and the nature of the true self, or the I am self, as a singular, instantaneous, all-encompassing, in the moment kind of experience of self that you can't talk about. There are no words to talk about it. You know, we can talk about the mind training that helps to bring you into an alignment with the experience that will show you that, but that's about as far as we can go. Anyway, so a little bit of news. A while ago I did make mention that I was looking to purchase a property and calling for anyone who might want to help out with that as an investor, or somebody who might be able to help upgrade the property to specific use once purchased, etc. So I have put an offer in on a place here in Australia. It's just a house on a decent sized block. As a starting point, I don't know whether it will be accepted yet, but it'll be a start. It'll be a home base for anyone and a drop-in place for anyone who wants to come and spend a period of time undergoing the poking and prodding of my my ever spurious, I don't know what to call it, tutelage perhaps, whilst at the same time also offering me good reflection. But that's what it's going to be for. It's going to be a healing place. I haven't yet had any kind of guidance. All the only guidance I have had was the initial vision of the place, and nothing more to it than that just yet. But I am staying open to, or I hope I'm staying open to, whatever guidance comes along regarding it. And there have been a few of you who have been in touch with Tina, which is the correct way to go about these things, offering services, etc. At this stage, I think financially I'm capable. If there are those of you who have lazy money laying around and would like to participate in bringing this idea into form for whatever length of time it might be viable, please get in touch. The more the merrier. I like the idea and presented in the movie Field of Dreams, where if you build it, they will come, and I'm sure that that's how it will be. It is how it has always shown itself to be to me in every venture that I've been about under the auspices of being about my father's business. So that's about it, I think. Aeroplane at high noon, must be lunchtime. Time to feed the carcass. Look at relationships as learning opportunities. Look at relationships as opportunities to take on board an honest reflection of the nature of your own relationship with the divine. If you use the concept of the mirror, things that ruffle your feathers in the relationship reflect the nature of where it is you are out of alignment with the divine, not in the specificity of the ruffling, but in the fact that your mind can still be disturbed by anything in time and space. Because if God goes with you everywhere you go and you are walking that alignment, nothing should upset you. You're simply in the action of being in the world but not of it. Things that upset you and disturb your peace of mind are further witnesses to the need for more forgiveness of self, for the belief that I think I'm separate from God, the belief that I think there can be something other than a true alignment with God, which is the idea of being selfish versus being selfless. And it's not about trying to be a saint and you're selfless and all of these things, but it is about healing and entering into the idea of healing, albeit as a temporary measure until your mind is restored to sanity, in the situations where the need for healing is made obvious to you, and that will be in any time and place that you find conflict, which will always show up in relationships. I was talking to somebody this morning on the phone and about relationships and having a bit of a laugh, because we think that our committed relationships with people are those in which we love that person the most, more than others, which of course is a special relationship. And in the way Jesus would put it, it's a murderous relationship. It's designed to separate. This person is my person and the rest of you can all, you know. I like this one the best. And of course that's division, that's separation, that's differences, right? That's only seeing through the eyes of the body and the preferences of the association that you have with your ideas of what a body should or shouldn't be, or how it is that you think love should be presented to you, etc. If love is unconditional, then love is presented to you all day, every day, in all forms. And if you cannot see that, healing is required. You can have relationships too with Donald Trump, for all you people that write to me saying, how can you be so loving of Donald Trump? And who was the other guy? Ken Wapnick? No, he was the other minister, the other president before him. Bill Clinton? No, I can't even remember his name. Barack Obama? No, there was another one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The world will always present you with icons of symbology that represent something that you can project your disdain and dissatisfaction onto and keep the dream alive in your own mind and hide from you the obvious nature of the fact you don't know what the meaning of life is. If you don't know the meaning of life, how can you judge anyone, whether they're a politician or whether they're a street person, or whether, you know, you can't. It's like I can't judge anyone for anything here. I don't even know why the hell I'm here or how I managed to get here. Where was I before I was here? Jesus says in the Course, you don't even remember a time before you were a body. It's like you got to take a load off. You got to realise, I don't know the meaning of fucking life. I don't know the meaning of life. How can I judge? All my judgments are based on meanings that I've given things for myself, according to parameters of preferences that I think I like and don't like. This is fair and this is unfair. These are our rights. And it's like, no one here has any rights. Go and tell that to the grave. You have no rights. You have a temporary injunction where you can kid yourself that you have rights, and where things can present you with the appearance of having rights. But if you have rights, you also have wrongs. If you have rights, you must have reasons for the upholding of those rights, which is always going to be presented to you through the auspices of pain, suffering, and death, because you cannot escape duality whilst you still believe in it. It's ridiculous. Luckily, Jesus comes along with the Course in Miracles and offers you a whole new thought system, which is based in a singular sense of I am, and transforms the nature of your dualistic thinking, not into non-dualistic thinking, because that implies dualistic thinking, but into altruistic thinking, which also includes duality. Try to hear that. It's not against anything. It just transforms what it is that you've made into something that becomes useful to you, so that you can see for your own self that the nature of what it is you've made for yourself no longer serves you as a being of light that is now transiting or exiting the continuum through this thing called awakening. You've got to let go. Let go of that old looking back over your shoulder and see what Donald Trump's doing, or Bill Clinton, or any of those guys. Who cares what they're doing? They're playing their part perfectly for me. And in that, only gratitude. Thank you for playing that part. I'm glad I didn't have to play that part. It's a hell of a part. I just got to be an everyday noob with a blue-collar job. That'll do. Whew. If I can get through that, that'll be enough. All things by the grace of God. All things by the grace of God. All right, I love you guys. We're not doing a Zoom this week. I will be in transit between where I am here and this appearance of a beautiful part of the world to another place which apparently is snowing and freezing cold and everybody's whinging about it. So, sounds like my kind of place. I'm going. I can't wait to get there. So, which is where I'm looking to purchase this property, actually. So, let's see what miracles unfold. All right, I love you. Peace.